Your child is not defying you, they are waiting for something. And the moment you understand what that something is, the word defiance stops fitting at all. That is the open loop this investigation is built around. And history has been holding the answer for more than 3,000 years. Let me jump in with a very quick personal comment. When I found this information and put it to the test, I was floored by how impactful it was. Not only to parent to child, but it goes much deeper, and I'll share that part later. For right now, let's just show you what my research has revealed, and it's guaranteed to take you by surprise. Picture a training courtyard in feudal Japan before the sun has fully risen. The air is cool and still. A boy no older than 8 stands across from his father, a samurai in his middle years, weathered and unhurried. The boy has been handed a wooden practice sword. His father has not spoken. He has not explained the lesson. He has simply waited. And what historians of Confucian-influenced samurai child-rearing have documented in the record of those mornings is the thing that changes everything about what defiance actually is. The samurai father was not waiting for obedience. He was creating the conditions for it. Historians of feudal Japanese culture have documented that the samurai household operated on a concept called Amae, meaning the expectation of benevolent indulgence within a dakta's trusted relationship, the felt sense that the person directing you is safe to follow. The child in that courtyard was not expected to comply because authority demanded it. He was expected to comply because the relationship itself had been built to be trustworthy. Compliance was not a power transaction. It was an expression of belonging. And when the father finally spoke his single word of correction, one syllable, calm and certain, the boy moved. Not because he feared the voice, because he trusted what was behind it. Researchers studying obedience in children have consistently documented the same finding across entirely different cultures and centuries. Children comply most readily, not when the authority figure is loudest, but when the relationship behind the authority is most secure. That pattern runs all the way back to ancient Egypt, and the Egyptian record adds something the samurai courtyard only implied. Picture the household of a wealthy Egyptian merchant in the city of Memphis, more than 3,000 years ago. The morning begins before the heat arrives. A child moves through a structured routine, washing, eating, receiving instruction from a father who holds a clear and visible role in the household. The Egyptian household was not casual. Roles were defined. Expectations were visible. Children in stable Egyptian households knew exactly where they stood. And what the papyrus records show, the household management documents, the wisdom texts, the educational records preserved in collections like the Instructions of Amenemhat, is that Egyptian children in these environments were remarkably cooperative by any modern measure. Not because they were afraid. Researchers examining the psychological context of ancient Egyptian child-rearing have noted that fear-based compliance and relationship-based compliance produce measurably different outcomes in children's bodies and brains. Fear-based compliance shows up as elevated stress hormones. It shows up in what developmental psychologists call hypervigilance, the child who is always scanning the room, calculating the adult's emotional temperature, managing the environment to stay safe. That child appears cooperative, but they are not compliant. They are surviving. Relationship-based compliance looks completely different. The child who trusts the relationship shows lower baseline stress. They recover from correction faster. They retain more of what the correction was meant to teach. And here is the pattern that connects both civilizations before the second confirms the first. The word was never the point. What lived behind the word was the point. That is what history recorded. Now here is where the research changes everything. If what you are discovering right now about defiance and the relationship behind it is giving you a new way to see your child, please take a second to like and subscribe. This content is about why children push back, and it is genuinely hard for the algorithm to find the parents who need it most. That one click does not affect your day, but it surely will help the next parent standing in the same moment of frustration find this powerful option. Thank you. Researchers at the University of Rochester, led by developmental psychologist Deci, spent years studying what actually drives children to follow directions willingly. What they documented is called self-determination theory, the finding that children comply most durably when 3 internal needs are being met at the same time. The need to feel capable, the need to feel genuinely connected to the person giving direction, and the need to feel that the direction makes sense inside a relationship they trust. Remove any one of those three, and compliance falls apart. Not because the child is being difficult, because the child is being human. And here is the present tense anchor that matters for the parent watching right now. If your child is fighting you the hardest when you are in the most hurry, you are watching self-determination theory live in your kitchen. What developmental psychologists have recorded about children who push back the hardest is striking. These children are not, as a group, the least connected or the least capable. They are frequently the most perceptive. They read relationships at high accuracy. They detect inauthenticity quickly. And what the behavior is actually communicating every single time is a gap between the authority being asserted and the relationship the child would need to feel secure enough to follow it. The child who looks you in the eye and says no is not broken. They are asking a question. The question is this: are you safe enough to follow? Take 2 minutes right now to find out which of the 4 documented inherited parenting patterns is shaping how you answer that question in your home. The free pattern identifier quiz is in the description below. It identifies whether you are running the rescue pattern, the silence pattern, the correction pattern, or the achiever pattern. The 4 inherited patterns, developmental researchers and historians have traced across generations of families. 2 minutes, free, in the description. Take it, then come back, because what this investigation uncovers next is the piece that history and science both point to, and that ancient wisdom named first. Before we move to some ancient literature that is coming up next, let me give you the second part of my opening personal comments. And that is this: that few-second connection before responding works with teenagers, subordinates, spouses, yes, even your spouse. I've tested this with even minor disagreements or while at work and need to correct a subordinate's actions. Children respond more positively, and people in general respond better too. I hope you found that as fascinating as I. Now, let me show you some powerful information that came up during my research. The Book of Proverbs contains a line that parents have repeated so often, it has nearly lost its weight. Train up a child in the way they should go, and when they are old, they will not depart from it. The Hebrew word translated as train is the word Chanak, which biblical scholars at Blue Letter Bible and the Theological Word Book of the Old Testament have traced carefully. And what they found is that Chanak is an agricultural term. It describes the process of conditioning the palate of a young animal by placing something nourishing in its mouth so that the animal associates the caregiver with provision, moves toward them freely. Ancient Hebrew wisdom was not describing compliance. It was describing appetite. The goal was never a child who obeyed because they had to. The goal was a child who followed because the relationship had been built to be worth following. That is not a modern therapeutic framework. It is a 3,000-year-old agricultural metaphor from one of the oldest wisdom documents in human history. And it is describing the exact mechanism that Edward Deci's research at the University of Rochester confirmed in peer-reviewed studies thousands of years later. History documented it, science confirmed it, ancient wisdom named it first. Here is what this means for the specific moment happening in your home this week. Before your next instruction to your child, stop for 3 full seconds. Make eye contact. Let your face show that you are actually present, not managing, not already frustrated, just there. Then give the direction. Researchers documenting what they call relational priming have found that this 3-second pause before a request changes how children receive what comes next. Not because of the pause, because of what the pause communicates. It communicates, I see you, before I need something from you. That is what the samurai father's single word carried. That is what the Egyptian wisdom texts identified as the precondition for any meaningful correction. That is what the Hebrew word Chanak was describing before the word training replaced it in translation. The one word that history, science, and ancient wisdom all converge on is not a command. It is the word that names the relationship before it makes any demand of it. Your child is not defying you. They are waiting to be found. That is the sharpest truth this investigation holds. History said it. Science confirmed it. 3,000 years of wisdom literature named it in a single agricultural word that most modern parents have never heard explained. And the child sitting in your house right now is living inside that truth, whether or not anyone ever told them what it was. If this investigation changed how you see your child's pushback, the next step is waiting. The pillar video for this channel is called Why Your Child is Exactly Who History Said. It is the one video on this entire channel that I believe will benefit you most. And that's because it traces the full pattern behind your child's behavior through 4,000 years of documented civilizations. It goes further than any single episode can go, and it is the clearest picture this channel has of what is actually running in your family right now. Watch it next. The link is in the description.